The universal health coverage program that we started strongly, and the state is working on it to provide this distinguished service to everybody. The campaigns and the initiatives launched by the state of Egypt, 100 million lives campaign, as well as our great campaign to eradicate hepatitis C, and the whole world witnesses now that Egypt was able to overcome this virus, and as soon as possible Egypt would free from hepatitis C. Early detection of diseases, other initiatives, early detection for kidney diseases, women health, these are all initiatives implemented by the state, and it spends millions of pounds on it to serve people everywhere in Egypt. The youth development that's taking place and hosting international events and competitions, our champions in different sports everywhere, the housing projects, and the great development in the new cities built now simultaneously. Never in the history of Egypt we have built 15 cities in parallel. When Egypt started building the new cities, we used to build 2 or 3 cities at most, but now simultaneously we are building 16 cities, and in our plan we will build other 16 cities in the future. This is what is done now in Egypt, developing also the transportation system and collective transportation, upgrading the railways, the subway, the internal collective means of transportation is a real development in an attempt to overcome the cumulative problems Egypt used to have before. Also renovating the old cities like Old Cairo. We are renovating it so that it would look as it used to look in 1920 when Egypt was the most beautiful city in the world. All the projects that are done now in Cairo is trying to upgrade and renovate Old Cairo and Alexandria in parallel to what is done in the new administrative capital, and we have the idea of renovating and upgrading all the capitals of our governorates, in addition to developing and renovating museums. In the history of Egypt, this is the time of establishing a lot of museums in Egypt. Over the past 4 years, we have established a lot of museums, cultural and heritage areas. In the near future, we'll have a large number of other buildings that would be built and the president would inaugurate, and this all shows the keenness of Egypt to protect its civilization and heritage, as well as renovating the informal settlements and slums. The cost of improving the slums as well as the unsafe settlements in which we are working, the cost is 424 billion pounds to develop these areas fully. And the unsafe settlements, in the photos I've shown you, we are achieving this development, and this is how it looks like. Instead of having 375 areas, now we have only 61 areas that we are working on, and during the coming few months we would finish them all to announce Egypt free from unsafe settlements. And the same applies to the unplanned areas. We are working on them round the clock, and this is the big challenge because we are talking about a large number of unplanned areas. As we said, it represents 50% of the urban areas in Egypt. To develop them, we need very big figures, about 300 billion Egyptian pounds. It is a grave challenge for us to go in these densely populated areas to provide the main services to the citizens. These are the areas and the new housing provided to people who used to live in unsafe areas, a totally different image. And as an expert in urban development, there is no country in the world that implements a project as such. I am confident of what I'm saying there is no country in the world that implements such a program. The country is very keen on the people who used to live in unsafe areas, provide them with housing apartments that are furnished and take them to urban areas where there are all services. There is no country in the world that does so except for Egypt. And we need all to be proud of this program. In all areas, Egypt is implementing this project, and it is not just limited to Cairo, Alexandria, and the capitals of the governorates. And we need here to look at the level of development that happened over the past 4 years that you can see in expenditure on health. As I told you, we now have 93.5 billion pounds in this fiscal year, with increasing growth rates through the programs we are implementing. And we are targeting the universal health coverage system, and even the old health coverage programs would provide services that need to be improved, but it reaches to 56 million Egyptians. The government investments for education have increased over the past 5 years. The unemployment rate has decreased, and here we need to stop. We used to have 85% unemployment rate between 1900 and 1920. Now Egypt has an employment rate and literacy rate. The illiteracy rate has decreased greatly, and it has reached only 20% now. So we have overcome the illiteracy problem. And the population in Egypt between 19,000 and 1920 was 9 million, and the literacy rate was back then 20%, 85%. It's now only 20%, while the number of population now is 100 million. So we need here to look at the figures and to see the volume of efforts exerted by the state to overcome the problem of literacy. As for unemployment, we were able to reduce unemployment. We are less than 8% in 2018-2019, but due to COVID-19, of course, we are back to 9.5% unemployment rate. But through the projects we are implementing, we would reduce the unemployment rate again to be 7.9%, which still needs to be reduced to create the biggest number of job opportunities for the youth. I want to wrap up my presentation by 2 or 3 slides only. Our vision for Egypt in the future. The United Nations has a lot of scenarios. Up till 2017-2018, Egypt was increasing by 2.5 or 2.4 million citizens every year. So there was a scenario that I might reach 180 million or 190 million by 2050. If you would assume that the population increase would go on the same. The United Nations, to make things easier, said that if Egypt would increase by 2 million annually, then in 50 years, the 100 million Egyptians would be 200 million Egyptians. So it's telling us, beware Egyptians, if you would increase by 2 million annually, then you're talking about doubling your population by 2050. And the problem we need to be aware of is that our population pyramid shows that the age group, and let's look at these 2 lines at the bottom of the pyramid. This is the age group from 0 till 10. They are the biggest in number today. This means that this age group in 10 years would get into the labor market and would be in the marriage age, and thus would increase the population more. So if the rates would go on as is, in 10 years the number of people at the age of marriage would be bigger than what we have today, and thus the increases would be higher. if we go on with the same rates. I wanted to put here 3 scenarios for the coming 10 years. May we all live to see these years. What would happen in these 10 years? If Egypt would go on with the same growth rate, 2.5 million annually, then the population of Egypt would be 125 million in 2030. Last year, we have seen improvement in the rates, and they have decreased. So it became 1.8. If we'd consider the 1.8 would go on the same, so I will have increase in the coming 10 years, 18 million. I have put here a third scenario. What if we start to realize as Egyptians this challenge the state is facing, and we decide all together to try to reduce the population so that it would be only limited to 800,000 annually for the coming 10 years. So instead of being 120 million, it will be only 108 million. These 17 million, the difference in 10 years would make a difference for the state, 670 billion pounds. I will have to pump in the economy just to provide partial services to these 17 million, and also I want to be able to provide the needed services. But if this same figure would be made available to us with 108 million only, then by doing so as a state over the coming 10 years, I would be able to do a lot of things. I would overcome the cumulative gaps I used to have over the past 20 or 30 years. I will achieve a leap in a lot of services. I would cover Egypt totally with wastewater services. I will solve the problems of education. I will have a large leap in all the services provided to the Egyptians, because the increase that I will have will be only 8 million instead of 25 million. With the rates that we want to double now, if we're talking about unprecedented levels, we need to double, then we would be able, if this happens, to see Egypt in a totally different place in 10 years. So I will end with this last slide that says there is no way for Egypt but protecting the stability of this state, the stability, and this is very important, along with doubling the efforts exerted. If you're talking about unprecedented rates, they should be doubled even. And all the development that's taking place should be well planned for, related to decrease in population, and so I would limit the opportunity of having new unsafe or informal settlements. Thank you all very much, and I wish I was not lengthy. Let me, Dr. Mustafa, comment in the name of God. Thank you, Dr. Mustafa, for this presentation that showed all of us the path Egypt has taken over the past 150 years. I think that the aim of this presentation was to tell people how the state would develop and how would it look like. Let me take one slide, the slide about the crises. The crises Egypt witnessed since 1948 up till today. Because I will give a different perspective or add another idea to all what was said by Dr. Mustafa. You will find me always talking about awareness. No, the slide before that. Yes, this one. Here we're talking starting 1955, only 65 years ago. We're not talking about 1805. And what worries me, and I always pay your attention to, is protecting our country. Because if wars and confrontations to destroy or defeat the country and hamper its development and progress was direct, now we have indirect attempts. We have new generations, and these generations deal with our issues and challenges and show it to the public opinion in Egypt, so that the public opinion would be the tool of destruction. So, when I see what Dr. Mustafa said, regardless of our challenges that we can overcome by doing only one thing, is realizing them. And let me tell you that a lot of politicians and intellects talked to me after 2011 about the challenge of Egypt, and I told them that the issue was not change, but it was just a matter of real understanding the challenges the state is facing. And this is what I would like to add to Dr. Mustafa. What you have seen over the 150 years or 200 years is that all countries in the world are facing challenges. So long as its people realize these challenges and are ready to unite with the leadership to overcome it, they can overcome it. But if they think, or someone would make the people think that it's a matter of destruction of the state that would make the change, then things would be different. I'm saying this because I've said this before when I was the Minister of Defense. In my seminars with the soldiers and officers, I told them, raise the awareness of the soldiers and officers about the challenges in the state of Egypt, because people have dreams and hopes. And maybe the state is not capable of meeting them. Dr. Mustafa is talking about the budget and budget deficit, but I will ask another question. Regardless of the budget deficit, is the budget capable of meeting the needs of the people? An example. If your income is 2,000 pounds and you spend 2,500, then you need the extra 500. You have a deficit of 500. So it is not just a matter of covering the budget deficit between the 2,000 and 2,500, but it's what you need. For a state like Egypt with a population of 100 million, how much do you need to spend for them? If you are not going to spend this figure, and unspending this figure would accumulate over years, what would be the result? The result would be the arise of new challenges in all fields: education, health, housing, infrastructure, all fields. So now they would tell you that the state is incapable of meeting these needs due to the corruption in the state. So go on and destroy the state. The existing challenges in Egypt are different. That's why I did not talk a lot about what Dr. Mustafa said. I'm speaking about what I always say, that the challenges we are facing are ones we can overcome. And in the last slide, he talked about stability and work. So we need to keep our country stable, to be patient and exert efforts and work. In the beginning, When I talked to you before assuming post, did I give you illusions, or did I tell you honestly that there are a lot of challenges and you are going to suffer? Because I'm not giving you illusions, I'm telling you the reality and how we'd overcome the challenges and how can we overcome it. So we will succeed, yes we will, with the support of God. We are building, we are not going on wars to destroy. We are building and developing and reforming for people, so God would stand by us. It is so important that we as people, the public opinion, would be aware of the war that is taking place against you. No one would defeat you ever through an external war. In 2011, those who wanted to assume power, when did they do it? Was it when the state was stable or when it faced problems? When it faced problems, of course. So if I want to do anything to this country, be it external challenges or internal challenges, if someone wants us to defeat us externally, so long as we are united, regardless of the strength and the power of the army, would anyone do it? No. In 1967 we had a very big defeat, but people stood defending the cause and they were victorious in 1973. Yes, they suffered and the economy has suffered greatly, but they succeeded. What is being tampered with today is the unity of the people and their resilience. Why did I leave everything that Dr. Mustafa said and started talking about this? Because this is the essence of the issue, protecting the state of Egypt and not the regime. And I'm saying this so that you would teach this in your schools and in your units to the soldiers in the army, to tell them, say so to your families. The main issue is the stability of the state, that this state would be on its foot. In 2011, again, the problems in different sectors. Those who stole the railway tracks in Egypt, when did they steal them? They stole them in 2011. It was Al-Wahat track that was stolen. When was it stolen? In 2011. So when I want to destroy a state, I would make the people revolt and turn them into a tool to destroy the country. This is the main issue in everything Dr. Mustafa said, and this is what we all should talk about. The media professionals, the ministers. We need to talk about the state stability. They would say the state is very good. I always tell them no. The fourth and the fifth generation wars are still there, and every day something new is coming up. And you find that in the different issues they cover them to provoke the public opinion and make the nation lose confidence in the leadership and raise doubts about the army. Over the past 2 days, there was an attempt to change your opinion. Also in 2011, I'm honest, regardless of the integrity and the goodwill on part of people who took to the streets, but how the results looked like. And again, I'm repeating, in 2011, when people started the encroachment on the River Nile, when did it happen? When you were strong or when you were weak? So everything can be done when you're weak. And here it is not just the army. I'm not talking about the army. This time the challenge that we need to be fully aware of is the strength and the stability of the state, as well as the awareness of the people. The awareness of the people is the real awareness. The points made by Dr. Mustafa, be it overpopulation or any other thing, by the end of the day, we started by receiving emission in the 1960s from South Korea to know what was the Egyptian experience back then. So let's see, where are they now and where are we? They have moved forward and we are still at the same place or even faced setbacks. Can we move forward? God willing, we can. To all of you, do not think that I can make false promises. I would never deceive you that we'll move forward. We are preparing ourselves with work, efforts and ideas to move forward with the support of God. The whole idea that I always keep before my eyes, and I say this to all the Egyptians, the officials, the intellects, the thinkers, keep and preserve the stability of this country so that it can move forward. Keep the stability of this country, it would develop and grow. The point of overpopulation. Has this challenge been there for long in 2003, 2004? Or 1904, 1905, we had 4 million as population, and we had 4 million Fiddans back then at the beginning of Muhammad Ali Pasha's era. Each one can plant a Fiddan. If you consider that the 4 million all are in the working age, but some of them were children, some of them were young people, but there were still people who were able to go work, plant these fiddans and earn their living, regardless of the state of poverty. When did Egypt face the currency deficit? It was between 1962 and 1967. This currency coverage that used to be the biggest in the world was there, and it was usurped during the Yemen war. So this issue, although it is so important for all of us, yet the essence of the idea and the progress is stability. And this comes from the awareness of the people, the awareness of the Egyptians and the public opinion. Oh, if all that was said is put in a holistic approach, we're talking about education, 23 million students. If all these 23 million have the understanding about this history, the history of Egypt, then no one then would talk about Egypt. I'm not talking about the Egyptian media, but I'm talking about the media that is targeting Egypt. If they then would try to target the Egyptian, they wouldn't be successful, since the Egyptians all have this awareness. I'm talking here to the armed forces and to the public opinion. When I was the Minister of Defense, I used to say, please make the soldiers and the officers learn what is the state and what are the challenges, so that in their daily encounters with others, they would talk to the soldiers about this and tell their families why is this the case in Egypt, why the state of Egypt is as such, because of so and so and so. Would be able to overcome this? Yes. But if you would go through another crisis like 2013, or 2011
زي اي حرب من الحروب اللي
or
فاتت
any war,
يبقى انا المصير هيبقى ايه؟
then what would be our destiny then? Would it be worse or
هي
better?
منظومه التعليم في مصر
The education system in
بغض النظر
Egypt,
عن هي كانت بتستهدف مجموعه صغيره
regardless
او
of
كبيره
targeting a
لكن مع
small
الأقل
group or a big
في
group,
الستينات
but at least
والخمسينات
in the 50s
كان
and the
منظومه التعليم
60s,
افضل
the
ولا ما
education
نحن فيه؟
system, was it better
مش عايز اقول
or
لغايه
as
لما
it
انا جيت عشان
is
ما يبقاش
today, or
شهادتي تبقى موجوده
I
فيه
don't want
لكن
to
احنا
say
بنسعى
before I
يا ترى
assumed
تراجعت
office.
المنظومه؟
We are
لا.
trying to do the
طب
reform.
منظومه الصحه
Is
تراجعت؟
What about
لا.
the health system? Has it
طبعا
faced
ليه؟
setbacks? Yes, of
لان
course.
المطلوب مش
Why?
موجود
Because what is
احنا
needed does not exist.
طب اللي احنا بنعمله ده
What
احنا
about what we are
بنقاتل
doing?
مش
We are
بنعالج
fighting
انا
and not
بتكلم كلام صريح
treating the problems.
بنقاتل مش بنعالج
We are
بنحاول
fighting.
نبذل اقصى
We
حاجه
are trying to
يعني
do our
في اطار
best.
المتاح حد يقول الكلام دوت انت كده بعد
So some people
الكلام
would
الجميل اللي
say,
قلته
after the good
ان
things
احنا
that Dr.
عملنا
Mustafa said, that we did so
بس
and
دي خطوه
so,
يا
are you
دكتور
coming to say so?
هي
Yes,
كام
we did
خطوه يا
it.
فندم؟
But this is just one
ألف
step
خطوة
in a
طبعا
series of
ألف خطوة
1,000 steps.
احنا
We
عملنا
have
خطوة
still 1,000
من
steps
ألف
to go.
خطوة
We
عشان
took one
الدولة دي
step
تبقى
out of
دولة بجد
1,000 steps for this state
احنا
to be a real
عملنا
state.
خطوة اللي فات ده كله اللي
All
اتكلم عليه
what we
الدكتور
did
مصطفى
before,
الأربعة تريليون
the 4
ده خطوة من
trillion, is
ألف
just one
معقول؟
step out of
طبعا
1,000
دولة فيها 100
steps.
مليون
We have a
دولة فيها 100
population of
مليون
100
عايز
million.
تعمل لها شبكة طرق عاملة ازاي؟
How would
عايز تعمل لها
its
قطع كهربية
network of
عاملة
roads
ازاي؟
look like?
عايز تعمل لها
How
غاز ازاي؟
would it have
عايز تعمل
gas,
لها مدارس ازاي؟
electricity,
عايز تعمل
schools,
لها جامعات ازاي؟ عايز تعمل لها
universities,
مستشفيات ازاي؟ عايز
hospitals,
تعمل لها فرص عمل ازاي؟
job opportunities?
ايوه
How would we do
ايوه
all that?
احنا عايزين بدل 4 تريليون
Instead of
40
4
تريليون
trillion pounds, we need
من
40
من مركز
trillion
المال
pounds. We have here the
يجي يقول
governor
لي
of the central bank.
داخل عليا في العرض كده يقول لي احنا الحمد
He
لله
would come and
الاحتياطي
tell
وصل
me the reserve
ل 38
is 38
ده
now.
تقليد انا بقول لكم بس عشان تعرفوا
I'm just
بقول له يا
telling
دكتور
you.
مصطفى بتقول
I
380
tell
مليار
him,
يقول لي لا
are you
38
saying
اقول له لما تبقى
380
380
billion? He
مليار
says,
يبقى
no,
38
38. I tell him, okay, when it comes
الدكتوره معيط تيجي تقول لي
380 billion,
احنا
tell me,
عدينا ال
so long
2
as it's
تريليون
38 billion.
وهنوصل ل 2.7
Dr. Mait would
تريليون
tell
السنه دي مش
me
كده يا
we
دكتور
have
مصطفى
2 trillion and it would be
قصدك
2.7
20
trillion this year.
تريليون
I would tell
يقول
him,
لي
are you talking about
2.7
20
اقول له لما
trillion?
توصل
Who
ل
would
20
say
تريليون قول
2.7
لي
trillion? I would tell him, when you have the 20
لا
trillion,
الرقم
tell me.
الحقيقي اللي انا
This is the
محتاجه
real figure that
انا
I
محتاج
need.
20
I
تريليون
need
مش
20
محتاج
trillion and not
2.7 تريليون
2.7 trillion.
يوم الناس يخشوا معانا في الاعلام اللي بره يقول لك بصوا
So
بيعملوا فيكم ايه
people
دول
would
سايبينكم
say in the
دول
external media,
بيحرموكم
can you
دول
see what they
بيعذبوكم
are
دول
doing? They are making
فاسدين
you
دول
suffering,
كذا
they
دول
are
كذا
corrupt, they
لا
are so
والله
and so. No, I
لا
swear by
والله
God.
والله والله
I swear again,
لأحاجي الكل يوم القيامة قدام ربنا على
I
اللي
will
عملوه
face
والله
everyone
والله
but by what we are
لأحاجي
doing in
الكل
front of God on
يوم القيامة
doomsday
على اللي احنا بنعمله لبلدنا
for everything that we are doing to our country.
طول انا ما عملتش 20 تريليون دلوقتي نشتغل ونشتغل عشان نطلع لقدام ونبقى فاهمين ان كل اللي بيتعمل معاكم في تصدير
Everything that is done
القضايا
in an attempt
والصعوبات اللي بتقابلنا هي محاولة
to
مرة تانية
exaggerate the issues and the difficulties we are facing is just an
ويبقى اللي
attempt
احنا حققناه في الست
to
سنين والله
cause
والله
problem for this country, and what we achieved in the 6 years, I swear by God, I swear
اللي ما تحقق في الست سنين او السبع سنين اللي فاتوا
what was achieved during the past 6 or 7 years equals the work of 20 years. 20 years.
في كل شيء انا بحلف بالله
I'm swearing by God.
لسه تاني لسه
Do we need more? Yes, we still need the other 50 years. Can we do it in 6 years? May God help us do it.
قال الدكتور مصطفى كله
I'm again repeating all what Dr. Mustafa said was very important, because he looked at the image and showed you everything, and he said that this is the past and this is the present, but I'm telling you that you are always targeted.
دايما مش هنقدر ننال منكم بالمناسبة. عايزين ترتاحوا.
If you want to be reassured
إذا كنتوا عايزين ترتاحوا من اللي بيتعمل فيكم
and you want to
اتصرفوا.
forget about what is being happening to you right now, reconcile. What should we do? Reconcile. If you want to reconcile, tell me.
تقول له في حاجة البلد في حاجة، يقول لك لا بس أنا ما أقدرش أتصرف.
But I cannot reconcile.
أنا ما أقدرش أتصرف. طيب مش بيقولوا الصلح خير؟
Aren't they always saying that reconciliation is good? Then why am I not reconciling? I'm not reconciling with those who want to harm my country and my people. I cannot do
لو
it.
اختلف معايا
If he would disagree with me and the disagreement is just a matter of disagreement, okay.
تدمر
But to destroy, kill,
100 مليون
and harm 100 million, how would I reconcile you?
أصلحك إزاي؟
How would I reconcile with you?
وشعب مصر هان عليه.
Since
شعب مصر
you
هان
took
عليه.
the Egyptians lightly,
الأطفال
the children,
وسيدات مصر
the women, the elderly,
مستعد تشردهم وتوديهم
you are ready to make them shelterless and make them refugees,
بلاش. ده بخاطر الناس في مصر بلاش.
and you did not stop and say, I wouldn't do this to the people in Egypt. If you have said so, then I would say that your conscience, humanity and religion is there, but you are not doing it.
عندك ضمير.
So you do not have conscience or humanity or religion.
اللي يضيع 100 مليون وعايز يضيعهم
Those who want to waste 100 million
متصور انه هيعمل بيه دولة.
to reach a place for a state to be established, how would this state be stronger? It hasn't been that for 150 years. Do you know what the story is? Do you know what a state is?
قعدت مع كل
I swear by God, I sat with all these people over 2 years or a year and a half, to be more accurate, before the elections of 2012. And I kept asking them, what are you going to do with the problem of education? What about health?
طب هتعملوا ايه في مشكلة الإسكان؟
What about the problem of housing?
هتعملوا ايه في الأزمة الاقتصادية؟
What about the economic crisis?
أنا والله العظيم ما لقيت إجابة.
And
أنا بحكي.
I swear I found no answer to all these questions.
الدولة تمسكني.
Then you are going to assume the power of this country without knowing how you are going to solve its problems and its challenges.
يعني عشان كلنا
I'm saying that
نمسك فيها كده.
so that we all would hold on to this state. Would we solve these problems? Yes, of course we will.
طبعا ليه؟ عشان احنا احسن
Yeah,
من
why of course? Is it because we are better than others? No, it's just because we are doing our best. And God said in a verse from the Holy Quran, do your best, and we are doing our best.
في ايه؟ في نصر.
So of course, since we are doing our best, there would be victory.
في يا دكتور مصطفى في نصر.
So long as we are doing our best, there would be victory, and this victory is reform, construction, development, progress, and success in all fields, thanks to God.
ف مش عايز اطول عليكم.
I do not want to be lengthy,
عايز في اليوم الجميل دوت اللي مصر فيه
and I do not want on such a beautiful day when we are celebrating a victory no one thought it would be done.
في السن يعني ان ابقى شكلي
I
كنت فاكر
I'm not that old, yet I remember all the details. I've been through it. There was no hope.
ثقة أبدا في أنفسنا.
We did not have any confidence that we would be able to overcome this, and we did it.
مصر عملت وأعد لهم مصر
Because at that time Egypt also did its
اللي احنا
ability, its best.
مش على قد المقارنة.
So it was up to our potentials and abilities, not up to the challenge or the comparison.
وفقنا
And that's why we succeeded and God supported us. I am sending my greetings to the army.
الجيش في 67
And I'm saying that the army in the year 1967 endured pain, exerted utmost efforts,
دماء وشهداء
and sacrificed lives, martyrs, and thanks to God was victorious in 1973. And today the army right now
جهد كبير جدا
is doing a lot
في محورين متوازيين.
on two parallel tracks,
التحديات اللي ممكن تقابلنا
facing any adversaries in different fields, terrorism and others,
كمان بيساهم
as well as contributing with the state
زي ما قلت قبل كده ذراع تساهم في
in being an army that contributes to development and construction. Dr. Mustafa was talking about the number of housing units we need. Dr. Mustafa, how many? 700,000
سنة يعني كل سنة
every year?
مش نفهم. طيب
Yes, exactly.
دكتور مصطفى احنا بنعمل كام؟
How many are we building right now?
قول كده للناس عشان تعرف.
I'm saying this to people so that they would know that the growth in rural areas should be planned and it should be vertical rather than horizontal.
يعني على سبيل المثال
For
لو
example,
انت النهارده القرية دي
if in this village
فيها 1000 بيت
you have 1,000 houses instead of having 100,000 houses,
فكرتنا تتغير.
our idea should change, and the 100,000 houses, the extra 100 should not be built horizontally but should be built vertically
طب ليه؟
up the existing houses
نعظم ما لدينا.
so as to maximize what we already have,
20
because by the end of the day we are living on a green valley from Aswan till Alexandria.
ده معناه ان احنا
And this means
اذا تفهمنا التحدي
that if we would understand this challenge in our country and what we'll do about it,
كل شيء
then
حتى لو كان لنا عادات وحتى لو كان
even if we have customs and traditions or a certain pattern of life, then we'd be able to overcome this. And instead of owning a separate house, I would say we can change our idea for the sake of our country and build above an existing house instead of destroying the resources we have, and they are not that much. Once more, thank you, Dr. Mustafa, for this great presentation during which you introduced to us the history of Egypt.
اطلاع على حل مصر خلال ال 150
It gives us an overview about Egypt over the past 150 or 200 years and why Egypt is in this status right now, while we are trying to solve all the problems that happened over the past years.
تفتكروا منظومة المحليات
Do you think that the localities as a system is capable now of managing the state needs and developing it in a way that won't cause a problem? As I mentioned, there were setbacks, and this is a decent word. There has been setbacks in all the state institutions. So one of these systems that had setbacks is the localities. When it faced setbacks, we have faced this problem that 50% of the surface area of Egypt is slums, informal and unsafe settlements. And to reform all that, we need very big volumes
جوه هذه الكتل السكانية.
to even build roads inside these densely populated areas. Thank you very much. For those who do not know the value of Egypt and its status, we say that the sun shines for our planet regularly, Yet, when it's prime time for the sun to rise in Egypt, its face looks shiny, full of pride, as it sends its rays to the spot in which God talked to his prophet. And when the sunset takes place, its face looks sad because it would leave for a while this sacred spot. This is Egypt, and this is its position. This is Egypt that deserves from all of us to work more and more so that it would be as bright as future. About Egypt, the past and the future, we will watch this documentary.
مصر الماضي والمستقبل. علينا أن نتعلم لنتطلع، وحين نتطلع يجب أن نتأمل الماضي لنصنع الحاضر والمستقبل.